Good evening. You have arrived at a quiet place meant for rest. There is nothing you need to solve here, nothing you need to understand fully, nothing you need to remember later. This is a calm science story. It is told slowly. It is meant to remain in the background, even if your attention drifts away. You do not need to listen closely. You do not need to follow each sentence. If your thoughts move elsewhere, that is completely fine. Right now, your body is already doing most of what is needed on its own. Breathing continues without effort. The weight of your body is supported by the surface beneath you. There is no instruction to follow. There is nothing to improve. This recording is not here to guide you toward a goal. It does not build toward an ending. It does not ask for focus or participation. It is designed to remain steady and predictable. In the same way, many natural processes remain steady when they are not being observed. Everything you will hear tonight is based on well-established scientific understanding. Not ideas meant to impress, not theories meant to surprise. Only observations that have been measured and confirmed over time. They will be shared softly, without urgency, because nothing here is happening quickly, and nothing here requires your attention. If you fall asleep at any point, that is expected. If you wake later and hear a few words, that is fine as well. This story does not depend on sequence. It does not rely on you being awake for any particular part. You may notice short pauses between phrases. Those pauses are intentional. They are part of the rhythm. They allow the nervous system to settle without being asked to do anything at all. For now, you can simply rest where you are, listening if you want to, not listening if you do not. The science will unfold quietly in the background, slowly, evenly, just as it always does. As you continue resting, there is no need to adjust your position unless your body naturally wants to. If you are already comfortable, you can allow stillness to remain. The body does not require precise alignment. It does not need to feel a certain way in order to rest. It only needs time and a quiet environment. Breathing is already happening on its own. You do not need to change it. You do not need to slow it down or make it deeper. Each breath arrives, and then it leaves, without effort. You may notice the gentle movement of the chest, or the subtle rise and fall of the abdomen. These movements do not need attention. They continue whether or not they are noticed. The muscles of the face can remain as they are. There is no instruction to relax them deliberately. The small muscles around the eyes may soften on their own. The jaw does not need to be held in place. The tongue can rest naturally. If there is any tension present, it does not need to disappear. The body does not require complete relaxation in order to rest. It only needs to feel safe. The shoulders are supported by gravity. They do not need to be lowered or adjusted. They are already being held by the surface beneath you. Your arms are where they are. They do not need symmetry. They do not need a specific position. They can simply remain. The weight of the body is already accounted for. Nothing needs to be held upright. Nothing needs to balance. Lower in the body, The legs are supported without effort. The muscles do not need to stay alert. There is nothing they need to prepare for. The feet do not require attention. They can remain quiet and unremarkable. There is no sensation you need to notice there. As the body remains supported in this way, the nervous system begins to recognize the lack of demand. There is no task, no response required, no signal asking for action. This is often when physical tension starts to soften, not because it is being released intentionally, but because there is no reason for it to stay. Thoughts may still appear. They might be fragments of the day, images, incomplete sentences. They do not need to be followed. They do not need to be pushed away. They can pass through awareness in the same way background sounds pass through a quiet room. Present for a moment, then gone. If your attention drifts away from these words, that is completely fine. The body does not need continuous input. It responds just as well to steadiness and tone. The voice you are hearing is not here to guide you somewhere specific. It is here to remain consistent, to provide a stable background while the body settles at its own pace. There is nowhere else to be right now, nothing else to prepare for. The night does not require readiness. You can continue resting exactly as you are, breathing, supported, unchanged. The body already knows how to do this. As the body remains supported and still, attention often becomes less focused on specific sensations. It can begin to feel more open, less directed. There is no clear boundary between being awake and resting deeply. Instead, there is a gradual shift, one that happens quietly, without announcement. In many parts of the natural world, change happens this way, not in sudden steps, but through slow transitions that are easy to overlook. Light fades across the evening without a single moment when day becomes night. Temperature adjusts gradually as the environment settles. Sound often softens over time as activity decreases and distances feel larger. These changes do not require coordination. They do not respond to attention. They unfold whether or not anyone is noticing them. The body is familiar with this kind of rhythm. It developed within environments shaped by repetition and slow variation, not by constant alertness. Because of that, predictable patterns tend to feel safe. They do not signal urgency. They do not demand quick responses. The brain works in a similar way. Much of what it does happens without direct awareness. Even during waking hours, many processes continue quietly in the background. Breathing is regulated without thought. Posture adjusts without instruction. Information is filtered continuously without effort. When the environment becomes calm and steady, the brain does not need to remain highly responsive. It does not need to track every sound. It does not need to evaluate each moment. This shift does not happen all at once. There is no switch that needs to be flipped. Instead, activity changes gradually, guided by the same steady conditions that have already allowed the body to settle. As external demands decrease, internal systems begin to adjust their pace. Some processes slow, others change their pattern. These adjustments are not deliberate. They are not directed by intention. They follow rhythms shaped by biology and time. The brain does not need to be instructed to begin this transition. It recognizes the absence of demand on its own. In this state, thinking often becomes less structured, less verbal. Not because thought has stopped, but because it no longer needs to organize itself around tasks or decisions. Words may still appear in the mind, images may come and go. They do not need to connect. There is no sequence that needs to be followed, no conclusion that needs to be reached. The voice you are hearing remains steady, not to hold attention, but to provide a consistent background, something even enough that the brain does not need to stay alert. This is often when awareness begins to soften further, not by force, not by effort, but because the conditions allow it. You do not need to notice when this happens. You do not need to mark the transition. The process continues on its own, and as it does, the quiet science story will continue as well, moving slowly, evenly, at the same unhurried pace as the systems it describes. Sleep is often described as a time when the brain shuts down, but that is not what happens. Instead of turning off, the brain changes the way it works. Its activity shifts, its patterns adjust. Some signals become quieter, others follow slower rhythms. Even during deep rest, the brain continues to use energy. It continues to communicate within itself. It continues to respond, though more selectively, to what is happening around the body. This is why sleep is best understood as a state, not an absence, not a pause. During waking hours, the brain is tuned to the outside world. It tracks sound, it monitors movement, it constantly evaluates what might require attention. When sleep begins, this outward focus gradually decreases. The brain does not stop receiving information, it simply changes how much importance it gives to it. Sounds may still be present, light may still reach the eyes, but these signals are less likely to interrupt the ongoing internal rhythms. This shift happens slowly. There is no moment when the brain decides to sleep. There is no command that signals the change. Instead, sleep emerges when conditions remain stable for long enough. Low stimulation, predictable surroundings, a lack of demand. Under these conditions, the brain begins to reorganize its activity. Communication between regions becomes more synchronized. Overall responsiveness decreases. This does not mean the brain becomes inactive. It means its priorities change. Some areas reduce their involvement in processing the outside world. Others continue their work quietly in the background. Scientists observe these changes by measuring patterns over time, not by listening to thoughts, not by interpreting experience. From these measurements, a consistent picture appears. Sleep involves different modes of brain activity. Each mode follows its own rhythm. These rhythms repeat across the night. They are not random. They are not chosen. They are shaped by biology. The brain does not need awareness in order to move through these states. They occur whether or not they are noticed. This is important to remember. Sleep does not depend on effort. It does not require cooperation. The brain is capable of entering these states on its own, as long as the environment remains calm enough. At times, awareness may still be present. At other times, it may fade. Both are normal. The presence of thought does not prevent sleep. The absence of thought does not cause it. Sleep unfolds when the brain is allowed to shift its activity naturally, without interruption, without pressure. The patterns that appear during sleep are not meant to be experienced directly. They do not announce themselves. They simply continue. Across the night, these changes in activity form a repeating cycle. The details of that cycle do not need to be understood. They do not need to be followed. What matters is that the brain is already familiar with this process. It has moved through these states countless times before. It does not need instruction now. As the night continues, these internal rhythms can settle into place, quietly, without effort. And as they do, the steady science story remains in the background, not to guide the brain, but to remain predictable, allowing the brain to continue its work at its own pace. As sleep continues, the brain often enters periods where its activity becomes slower and more uniform. These periods are commonly grouped under the name non-REM sleep. The name itself is not important to remember. It is simply a way scientists describe a set of patterns they observe repeatedly. During these times, the brain becomes less responsive to the outside world. Sounds may still be present, light may still reach the eyes, but they are less likely to trigger a reaction. This change does not happen suddenly. It develops gradually as the brain continues to shift its priorities away from external monitoring. Communication within the brain begins to follow slower rhythms. Signals tend to move together rather than independently. Activity becomes more synchronized across wider areas. This does not mean every part of the brain is doing the same thing. It means the overall pattern becomes more regular, more predictable. Because of this regularity, the brain requires less effort to manage incoming information. There is less need to evaluate, less need to decide. For the body, this often coincides with deeper physical rest. Muscle tone decreases, movement becomes minimal. These changes are not directed by intention, they are not controlled by thought. They occur because the brain is responding to stable conditions, low stimulation, minimal demand. Scientists understand these periods by observing long stretches of time. They look for repeating patterns. They measure how activity changes as sleep deepens and lightens. From these observations, it becomes clear that non-REM sleep is not a single state. It includes phases that differ slightly from one another. The details of those phases are not important here. What matters is the general trend. As non-REM sleep progresses, responsiveness decreases. The brain becomes less likely to shift attention outward. This is one reason sleep can continue even when quiet sounds are present. The brain does not treat every signal as equally important. It filters more selectively. During these periods, awareness may fade significantly. Thoughts may become sparse or fragmented. Time may feel less defined. These experiences vary from night to night. They are not reliable markers of what the brain is doing. The brain does not announce when it enters or leaves these states. There is no internal signal to follow. Non-REM sleep does not require complete stillness. Small movements can still occur. Brief awakenings can happen and pass. The brain can return to these slower patterns easily when conditions remain calm. Importantly, these changes do not indicate that the brain is resting in the everyday sense of the word. It is not inactive. Instead, it is operating in a mode that emphasizes internal coordination over external response. Scientists describe this as a shift in balance. Less emphasis on reacting, more emphasis on maintaining stable internal rhythms. These rhythms are shaped by biology. They have developed over long periods of time. The brain does not need to understand them in order to follow them. They occur automatically. As long as interruptions are minimal, these slower patterns can persist. They can deepen. They can repeat. Awareness does not need to stay present for this to happen. It does not need to disappear either. Sleep continues whether or not these changes are noticed. As the night moves on, periods of non-REM sleep return again and again. They form part of a larger cycle. That cycle does not require attention. It does not depend on memory. It unfolds quietly, guided by internal timing rather than conscious effort. And while these processes continue, the steady tone of the voice remains in the background. Not to describe every detail, but to remain even, allowing the brain to continue slowing where it needs to, at its own pace. As these slower patterns of non-REM sleep continue, they do not remain unchanged for the entire night. Without effort or awareness, the brain gradually shifts again. This shift does not interrupt sleep. It does not require waking. It simply changes the pattern of activity. Scientists describe some of these periods as REM sleep. The name refers to a physical sign that can be observed. It does not describe an experience that needs to be noticed. During these times, overall sleep continues. The body remains supported. Muscle activity stays reduced. What changes is the way different parts of the brain communicate. Instead of slower, highly synchronized rhythms, activity becomes more varied. Some regions become more active than they were before. Others remain quiet. This does not mean the brain becomes fully alert. It means that the balance of activity shifts again. Responsiveness to the outside world remains low. Sounds and light are still less likely to interrupt the ongoing internal patterns. From the outside, the body often appears deeply asleep during these periods. Breathing continues steadily. Movement remains minimal. Internally, the brain follows a different rhythm. REM sleep is often associated with dreaming, but dreaming is not required for this state to occur. Not every REM period includes dreams, and not every dream occurs during REM sleep. For the brain, REM sleep is not about creating stories or images. It is simply another mode of operation. Scientists observe that communication between certain areas becomes more active during these times. At the same time, signals related to movement remain suppressed. This combination allows internal activity to continue without producing large physical responses. Like non-REM sleep, REM sleep is not chosen. It is not controlled. It does not depend on intention. It emerges naturally as part of a repeating cycle. Across the night, the brain moves between these patterns. Slower and more uniform at times, more varied at others. These transitions happen quietly. There is no clear boundary between them, no signal marking the change. Awareness may briefly return during these shifts, or it may remain absent. Both are normal. The presence or absence of dreams does not determine the quality of sleep. The brain does not measure success this way. What matters is that the cycles continue. Each period supports the next. Each pattern gives way to another without effort. Scientists describe these changes using models built from long observation. They look at averages across many nights, across many people. From this perspective, REM sleep is simply one part of a larger rhythm. It does not need interpretation. It does not need meaning. The brain does not pause to evaluate these states. It does not reflect on them. They occur because the conditions for sleep remain in place. Low demand, predictable surroundings. As long as those conditions continue, the brain can move through these patterns freely. You do not need to track where you are within the cycle. You do not need to recognize any particular state. The brain does this work on its own. As the night continues, periods of REM sleep appear and fade. They return again later, interwoven with slower patterns. Together, they form a rhythm that repeats quietly until morning. The details of that rhythm do not need attention. They do not need to be remembered. They continue whether or not they are noticed. And as these cycles unfold, the voice remains steady in the background, not to explain every change, but to remain consistent, allowing the brain to move through its patterns without interruption at its own pace. As these different patterns of sleep appear and fade, they do not do so at random. They follow a rhythm. This rhythm is not something the brain needs to monitor. It is not tracked consciously. It unfolds on its own. Across the night, periods of sleep tend to return in familiar sequences. Slower patterns give way to more varied ones. Then they soften again. This movement repeats, not exactly the same each time, but similar enough to feel steady. The brain does not aim for a particular state. It does not try to remain in one pattern longer than another. Instead, it moves through these cycles as conditions allow. These cycles are shaped by internal timing rather than awareness. They continue whether or not attention is present. From one moment to the next, the changes are subtle, barely noticeable. It is only when looking at longer stretches of time that the rhythm becomes clear. Scientists understand this by observing nights as a whole. They look for repetition across many hours, not for detail in any single moment. From this broader view, sleep appears less like a straight line and more like a gentle wave, rising and falling, returning again and again. For the brain, this kind of repetition reduces the need for response. When patterns are predictable, vigilance becomes unnecessary. There is nothing new to evaluate, nothing unexpected to prepare for. This is one reason the mind can begin to loosen its hold on structure. Thoughts may become less defined. Time may feel less organized. The brain does not require constant novelty. It responds just as well to sameness. During sleep, repetition is not a problem to solve. It is a signal of stability. Each cycle supports the next. Each transition happens without instruction. There is no correct point to be at within the rhythm, no stage that needs to be reached. The brain does not measure progress during sleep. It does not keep track of where it has been. It simply continues. This is why sleep does not need effort. Trying to follow the cycle can make it harder to settle. Letting it remain in the background allows it to proceed naturally. As these rhythms repeat, information becomes less important. Details begin to soften. The exact names of states do not matter. The order does not need to be remembered. What remains is the sense of continuity, of movement that does not rush. The voice you are hearing follows the same principle. It does not speed up. It does not introduce something new. It remains even, predictable. This steadiness provides a reference point, something consistent enough that the brain does not need to stay alert. When attention drifts away, the rhythm continues. When awareness briefly returns, it finds the same calm pattern waiting. Nothing has changed suddenly. Nothing requires response. The cycles of sleep continue in the background, quietly repeating. And as this repetition continues, the need to understand fades further. The brain does not require explanation in order to follow its rhythms. It has done this many times before. It knows how to move through the nights without supervision. The patterns rise, they soften, they return, and the steady background remains. By now, there is no need to keep track of what has already been said. Nothing here depends on remembering details. Nothing is building toward a conclusion. The patterns described continue whether or not they are followed. The brain continues moving through its rhythms, slower at times, more varied at others. These changes do not speed up. They do not require attention. They are not affected by observation. Repetition is intentional. When information stops changing, the brain no longer needs to stay alert. It can remain open without monitoring. This is often the point where listening becomes optional. Words may still be heard, but they no longer need to be interpreted. They can pass through awareness without forming clear images or thoughts. The body remains supported. Breathing continues at its own pace. Nothing has shifted suddenly. The environment is unchanged. There is no signal suggesting that something new is about to happen. The same ideas return gently, not to reinforce meaning, but to maintain rhythm. The brain does not need more explanation. It does not need reassurance. Everything important has already been allowed to settle. From here on, there is no advantage in staying awake to listen. The science does not become more complex. The pace does not increase. No new concepts will be introduced. What follows is repetition, soft variation, and space. If sleep arrives now, nothing is missed. The processes being described do not move toward an ending. They repeat. They continue. If awareness fades, it fades naturally. If it returns briefly later, it can drift again just as easily. There is no correct way to experience this moment. Some nights, rest arrives quickly. Other nights, it arrives in stages. Both are normal. The body does not need instruction. The brain does not need direction. The steady rhythm is enough. The voice remains consistent. Its role does not change. There is nothing to prepare for. From this point onward, the information remains light. Meaning continues to soften. The night does not move toward an ending. It simply continues. And in that steadiness, sleep has room to settle. Quietly, without effort, without needing to be noticed at all. As the night continues, there is less need for words to carry meaning. They can remain as sound. Moving at a steady pace, without forming clear ideas, the brain continues adjusting quietly. Not toward a goal, not toward an outcome, simply continuing the patterns that are already in place. Activity does not stop. It softens. Signals move more evenly. Responses become less frequent. There is no moment that needs to be noticed, no shift that requires attention. Breathing continues without guidance. The body remains supported without effort. Nothing new is being asked of you. The voice does not change direction. It does not signal anything important. It remains present in the background, predictable, even. Thoughts may still appear. They do not need to connect. They do not need to lead anywhere. They can pass without being followed. Pauses between phrases may feel longer. Time may feel less distinct. This does not need to be examined. The brain does not require monitoring now. It does not need to stay organized. Information has already softened. Details no longer need to be held in place. The same ideas return gently, not to explain, not to clarify, only to maintain rhythm. There is no need to follow the voice closely. No need to notice where one sentence ends and another begins. Words may blur together. This is not something to focus on. It can happen without awareness. The brain already knows how to continue this process. It has done so many times before. There is nothing to remember, nothing to complete. As the minutes pass, the steady pattern remains. There are no sudden changes, no shifts in tone or pace. The environment stays quiet and unchanged. If sleep has already arrived, the voice continues without needing to be heard. If awareness returns briefly, it can soften again just as easily. Nothing here depends on attention. The processes being described do not pause, they do not speed up. They continue at the same unhurried pace. The night does not ask for participation. It allows rest. The sound remains in the background, without urgency, without direction. And as this repetition continues, the mind has less reason to stay alert. The meaning fades further. The rhythm remains. That is enough. As attention becomes less defined, it is not necessary to keep track of what is happening. The brain continues its work without needing to be noticed. Some processes remain active, others remain quiet. They do not require awareness in order to continue. The brain does not check whether it is being observed. It does not wait for confirmation. It follows patterns that have already been set in motion. Across the night, internal activity adjusts gradually, not all at once, not in a way that can be clearly marked. These changes happen beneath awareness. They are not experienced directly. They do not announce themselves. The body remains supported. Breathing continues at its own pace. There is no need to notice either of these things. Even without attention, internal systems remain coordinated. Signals continue to move where they need to move. Nothing here requires supervision. This is not something that needs to be understood. It does not become clearer with focus. Understanding is not part of the process. The brain does not rely on thought in order to continue sleeping. Thought can fade, or it can appear briefly and pass again. Either way, the underlying activity remains steady. There is no task to complete, no stage to reach. The night does not measure progress. What continues does so quietly, in the background. The voice remains present, but it does not guide or direct. It stays even, unchanging. Words no longer need to form meaning. They can exist as sound alone. Sentences do not need to be finished. Ideas do not need to connect. The space between phrases is enough. Nothing new is being introduced. Nothing important is being explained. The brain does not need explanation now. The same steady conditions remain in place. Low demand, predictable rhythm. As long as those conditions continue, sleep can deepen or remain light. Either is fine. Awareness does not need to decide. If sleep has already arrived, everything continues without interruption. If it has not, there is no problem. Nothing here depends on an outcome. The processes that unfold do so on their own. They do not move toward a conclusion. They do not come to a stop. They continue quietly. And in that quiet continuation, there is nothing more that needs to be done. The rhythm continues. Nothing shifts. Nothing resolves. The same steady patterns remain in place. The brain continues moving quietly. The body remains supported. There is no signal marking the passage of time, no clear boundary between moments. The voice remains present, but it does not ask to be followed. Words arrive, then soften. Sentences do not need to be completed. The space between them is enough. Breathing continues on its own. There is no need to notice it. The body stays where it is. Nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to be adjusted. If sleep has already arrived, the sound continues without needing to be heard. If awareness returns briefly, it can drift again just as easily. Nothing here depends on attention. The processes being described do not change when they are not observed. They do not slow down. They do not speed up. They continue at the same pace they always have. There is no conclusion waiting, no final thought to reach. The night does not move toward an ending. It simply unfolds. The repetition remains gentle. The tone remains even. There is no reason to stay awake for what comes next. Words no longer carry information. They only carry rhythm. That rhythm does not need to be understood. It can exist quietly in the background, like distant motion. like slow cycles that do not announce themselves. Nothing more is required. The night continues. The motion continues. And the quiet remains.